things off with some healthy snacking with Shira Hirshberg with All Foods Nutrition. Shira, come on in. Hello. Registered and licensed dietitian nutritionist. So thanks so much for joining us.
Sure, good to be here.
Thank you. All right, so everyone likes to snack. Can we snack responsibly? Is snacking a good idea?
I think we can snack responsibly.
Okay. Is it a good idea? I don't know.
For most people, snacking is a good idea.
Okay.
So the thing that's key is that most people need to eat somewhere between every 3 and 5 hours. So most people are awake long enough that they need to eat more than 3 times per day. There are some people that do perfectly fine with 3 meals per day, and if you're one of those people and you're happy with that pattern, you don't need to change it.
Okay.
When we look overall at the research, people who eat 4 to 6 times per day are most able to maintain their weight. So if weight management is a concern that you have, then certainly snacking fits in, right? Because that's more than 3 meals per day. So it's very reasonable to snack. The key is how we do it and what we snack on.
Those are the key things. And when those snacks like cross the line into more of a meal, then, right? So if you're eating like 6 meals a day. All right, so today we're going to talk all about smart snacking, healthy snacking for you and for kids as well, because we kind of wanted to tie this into back to school and just kind of getting on that pattern of how we do this and what's good and what's healthy for kids, right?
Right. All of a sudden, you might need to be packing those snacks every day. So
Exactly. So you kind of mentioned, should we snack? Yeah, it's okay. And how often is snacking good for you? Does it depend on how old you are?
Yeah, it does. So little kids need to snack more than older kids and adults. So little kids basically need a snack between breakfast and lunch and between lunch and dinner because they need to eat every 2 to 3 hours. So when you start doing the math on that, that means they need multiple snacks a day, at least 2 snacks per day. As kids get older and adults are often fine with 1 snack a day. It just depends. If kids are growing a whole lot, going through a growth spurt, or if they're very active with sports and things like that, they may need 2 snacks per day as well as they get older.
Okay, so when everybody was really excited for snack time in elementary school, I mean, there was a reason behind that.
They needed it, yes.
Maybe you just implement that snack time when you're in the office as well. Just not cookies, maybe.
Yes, not cookies, maybe. And I think it is good often for adults to have set snack times. If you're reaching a meal and you're over hungry and hangry and eating things that you don't want to be eating because of that, then maybe it's important for you to set yourself a regular snack time and stick to that. It just depends on how far apart your meals are spaced.
Okay. So let's talk about what makes a good snack, because it's always kind of like sometimes you just get bored of certain things or you just don't know what is good. You need some ideas. And that's why we have you.
So my rule of thumb is that if you're going only an hour until your next meal, let's say you get hungry at 11 o'clock, your lunch is at noon, then a small snack is fine. A small snack is something like a piece of fruit. So maybe just 1 food item is fine just to tide you over. That would be okay. But if you're going 2 hours, 3 hours before your next meal, it needs to be what I would call a full, complete snack. And that means at least 2 food groups.
Okay.
So that's something like a protein item or a healthy fat item. So we're talking nuts, cheese, hummus, guacamole. You might be going with some sort of carbohydrate, fruit, vegetable. So I think at least 2 food groups need to be combined. And usually a healthy fat or a protein will help keep you full. If you just do a carbohydrate, let's say just cereal with blueberries, it's not going to take you very far. So using those protein and healthy fats will help that last you longer.
Yeah, whenever you just have the Cheerios, it usually burns out quickly, right?
It's not long-lasting energy. It's short fuel.
Yeah. Okay. So some of those are really helpful ideas. What are some things that you can use? What are some of your favorite things that you like to go to, cold items versus things that you can just keep in your pocket or keep in your desk drawer?
Right, and some people don't have access to refrigeration at work or at school, and so it's important to have a list of good things that don't have to be refrigerated. So if you cannot keep things cool, the protein gets to be the thing that's harder, because a lot of proteins people snack on, like dairy items, need to be kept refrigerated. You can keep them out for 2 hours, but that's often not long enough for people during the day.
So then you just tend to eat them faster, right? You just load up.
So things like nuts and nut butters, so peanut butter, almond butter, any sort of nut is a good nut, cashews, there are all different kinds of nuts out there. Feel free to expand. Pistachios, Seeds are another great option, so pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. And now there's a lot of cool dried products out there. So like dried chickpeas are very popular. You can get them in all kinds of fun flavors. There's cinnamon ones, there's spicy ones. Dried edamame is another option. Get it flavored. Dried soybeans might be called. So things like that are good, kind of, you don't need to keep refrigerated type of options.
Okay. And that's handy just in the desk drawer or even in the car, right? That's where I always find myself being like, "Oh, I'm starving!"
Yeah,
and then
if you end up
and
yelling at the traffic because you're so hungry, then maybe keeping some sunflower seeds in the car is a good idea. And, you know, if you can keep things refrigerated, that opens you up to lots of other options, things like yogurt, cottage cheese, cheeses, you know, things like fresh edamame or hummus or guacamole are great options for those, for some protein foods. People usually find carbohydrates pretty easily.
Oh.
Usually, you know, bread, crackers, you know, popcorn, fruit, whole wheat pita, granola that you add to yogurt. Those are pretty easy to come up with. It's sometimes the proteins that can be challenging.
They can be tough, especially if there's no refrigerator on hand.
Right.
Let's talk about bars, because those are super easy to get access to. I feel like what can be tricky is the amount of sugar in bars.
Yep.
But they're so easy and they're delicious, especially when you get the ones that have a lot of sugar.
Yep.
What do you suggest if people are looking for easy to grab, they can pack away, they last a while? What are some of your favorite bars, whether they're protein or whatever? What are some of the ones that you like?
So my favorite is Lara Bar. They do have some new funky kinds of Lara bars. I like the original Lara Bar the best. The neat thing is if you go to their website, they will show you the ingredients in pictures of food, because
cool.
You can understand what those things are. Many granola bars and protein bars, the list of ingredients, you'd never be able to show that because it's all kinds of things that would be a powder form or something else. But this is basically, you know, nuts and dried fruit crushed together. They're not super high in protein, so for people who really, you know, are very kind of reactive to blood sugar and get hungry really quickly if they don't eat high protein foods, they're not the best choice. But for people who don't have that problem, they're really great. And they are like a 200 calorie bar, which keeps you going a little longer. You know, if you get those like chewy granola bars, those are 100 calories. They're not going to keep you going very long. So they're a denser bar that works as a kind of complete snack. I also like RX bars. Those again have a lot of like whole, understandable ingredients. And then those are, the Lara bars are fairly easy to find. The RX bars are a little harder to find. Kind bars are very available, kind of drugstores everywhere you can find those. So that's another one I think is a decent option. You know, read the labels. They have a lot of different kind options out there. Some are better than others. Look for ones with a little more protein. I like to look for 5 grams or more protein in a bar. And again, like the lower sugar options are kind of the healthier. They, you know, look for their different versions. There are grain bars I don't like as much as the fruit and nut bars, for instance.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's good to know. Yeah, the sugar can really add up. But, I mean, there's different, like the Lara bars, they can have a lot of sugar, but it's because they use dates. There's no
at least it's dried
sugar.
Fruit, so it's not added sugar, which is preferable. It doesn't mean it's not sugar, it still is, but it's, you know, got the fiber involved as well, at least.
Exactly. Okay, so that's good to know. Here's another one. So a lot of people are running around, running errands, or they're at work, and only have access to maybe like a convenience store around the corner. If that's all you have access to, or you're just running and grabbing something, what are some options that you can look for in those kinds of stores?
So one thing I like that they do have is refrigerated items, right, that you might not be able to keep on hand. So things like hard-boiled eggs are usually available. There are usually cheese sticks. There are usually yogurts. So some of those items are great. They also, in kind of the, you know, dried section or the non-refrigerated section, whatever else you call that, you've got things like nuts and seeds often. They'll have like a packet of sunflower seeds, a little packet of nuts, and those are pretty good options. Sometimes they'll have whole grain cereals or whole grain crackers, things like Triscuits or Wheat Thins, which are usually, you know, some whole grain and some not. Triscuits are really whole grain, which is great. They often do have fruit. Whether it's like very delicious fruit or not is sometimes questionable, but it's usually there. It's hard to go wrong with a banana. As long as it's ripe, you're pretty solid. So those are some of the good options there.
Okay. I don't know if you ever look at those, but I read like a BuzzFeed I ate 7 days at a convenience store.
Oh.
And it was really interesting, but they had a salad and it was interesting to see how did I feel at the end of this experiment?
What was actually available.
Yeah, what was available. I mean, I think stores are trying to give healthier options. But yeah, I mean, hard-boiled eggs and if, just depending. So they ate seeds, they ate cheese sticks, and then one day they were like, I got a ramen.
I was sick of this same stuff over and over, yeah. One thing I will mention is to beware of trail mix. So it's not that trail mix is never a good idea, but it often is very high in calories and very high in sugar. So just read the labels and know what you're getting into, because you can pack a lot of energy into a very small pouch when you're using trail mix. So just know if that's a 500 calorie bag of trail mix, then know that that's what you're eating.
Because a lot of the ones that taste really good have salt and sugar.
Yeah, so. And they're made of dense stuff. They've got nuts, they've got chocolate, they've got dried fruit. All of those things are dense. So when you pack all that stuff together, and even a small pouch can be pretty high in calories. Sometimes they're a good option, but they take a little more reading to be sure of.
Okay, so check the labels.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about kids. So if you're packing for your kids, actually before we get to kids, we want to talk about exercise because I think that's important. Because some people don't know, do I go to the gym or go for a run on an empty stomach? Should I eat before? Should I eat afterward? What should we do if we're thinking about snacking before we get a good workout in?
Okay, so I'll start first thing in the morning.
Okay.
So if you're a first thing in the morning workout person, yes, you definitely are running on empty if you don't eat anything before. So it's important to eat something. Now, some people tolerate food better than others in the morning. Before a workout. So if you're the kind of person that gets really queasy if you eat something, try at least some Gatorade, some sort of carbohydrate. But ideally you would have something a little more substantial. So some carbohydrate and some protein is ideal if you're trying to get stronger, build muscle, but you need at least that carbohydrate to give your cells some energy to work with.
Okay.
Now, let's say you're not working out first thing in the morning, it's happening later. It all depends on when your last meal or snack was. So if it's been a long time since you last ate, let's say you work out in the afternoon at 5 p.m., you haven't eaten since lunch, yes, you're going to need a snack closer to that workout. So, I think within the 2 to 3 hours before, you'd want to have some sort of food, or you're going to get really hungry, and by the end of that workout, you're going to be tired and, not just because you worked out, because you've just got no fuel to work with. So you don't want that to be the reason that your workout is ending.
Okay.
Afterwards, ideally, especially if you're trying to, let's say, add muscle, like let's say you're doing resistance training and you're trying to bulk up a little bit, trying to get stronger, trying to lift heavier, you want to have food within the first half an hour to an hour after you work out. Now, maybe that's dinner or lunch or, whatever meal, but if it's going to be quite a while before next meal, then a snack's appropriate then.
Okay. All right. So that's good to know because there's usually some discussion about that. And I think also personal preference too, like you said, depending on how your body tolerates food. Okay, so now let's get to kids because, we're back to school, we're back to all the activities that come with school and different schedules, and then you add more than one kid to the family and oh boy. So definitely want to get those snacks and eating habits under control. So I found it interesting what you said, when should kids snack? The timing is a big deal.
Yep. So in a perfect world, our children would not snack throughout the day as much as they want whenever they feel like it. They would have scheduled, structured meals and snacks. So that means that, let's say your kids come home from school and they're hungry, great, but that's the time that they snack, right when they get home from school, and then they don't eat again until dinner. And the reason that's important is because it's great to have kids be sitting at the same place, ideally, to eat. That's easier if you have structured meals and snacks. And it's important that they go some period of time between meals, 2 to 3 hours. So if they're snacking all the time, then often they're not that hungry for dinner, and that can lead to mealtime frustration between parents and kids. So it's important to space those meals and snacks a good 2 to 3 hours apart for kids as well.
Okay. So I also found it interesting that the place where we snack, where kids snack, is important.
Yeah. So I think it is hard, especially when we're on the go a lot and we're running around, to have that always happen. But when you're at home, at least, you don't want your kids to snack in front of the TV while they're eating homework. You want them to pay attention to their food, just like we want to pay attention to our food. It helps us be more mindful. It helps us just pay more attention to what we're eating. If we're eating mindlessly, then often we don't get the same amount of satisfaction and fullness. So your kids won't either. So have them sit in one place and not be doing a lot of other things while they're eating. You don't want them running around. That can be really challenging with small kids, but it's still important, especially because littler kids are at high risk of choking. So the best you can do to get your kids to eat in the same place every day for meals and snacks, the better off.
So I think that's especially, what are some snacks that maybe, I think all parents are probably learning this as they go.
Me too.
Small kids, any certain snacks that small kids should avoid with that choking hazard?
Yeah, so choking hazard is especially important for kids under the age of 4. And so I'm going to basically read some guidelines that are put out around this issue. They're national guidelines. So specifically things that can be problematic are whole grapes, so that's why I recommend you cut those.
Okay.
Hot dogs, again, you need to cut this stuff. Anything that's round can get lodged right in your airway pretty easily for little kids. Raw carrots, same thing. Peanuts, nuts can be problematic. So, you really want to cut foods into pieces no larger than ½ an inch.
Oh, okay.
That's for kids under 4, that's the recommendation. You want to encourage your kids to chew food well. You want to supervise their meal times. Having them be in one place helps you do that. And kids shouldn't be walking, running around, or playing or lying down with food in their mouths because that increases the risk of choking. So choking and some other things that are problematic can be popcorn, chunks of peanut butter, chunks of raw vegetables, chewing gum, hard or sticky candy, chunks of meat or cheese, seeds actually as well. So just keeping those pieces small is very important.
Okay, great. So hopefully we helped you get your snacking ready to go for the new year and helped to give you some ideas on what are some healthy snacking options for children and for yourself. So Shira Hirshberg with All Foods Nutrition, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you helping us get healthy and start off the new school year, and for everyone else, just with the year, help us get our snacking off to a good start or continuing. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.